Hi, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk, where we don't just talk about money and how to make money, but how to put yourself in a position so you look like your money. And I have the right guest for us to do that today. So I have two requests right now. One is if you like what you see, don't keep it to yourself, share it with everyone, like it. And respond to it or even subscribe. And the second thing is stay tuned because we'll be right back. Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda K's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda K. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda K.
And we're back. And I can see that gremlin is still in the studio because I keep seeing my special guest go in and out of my screen. So I hope that when I push this next button, I get this very special guest. Now, if you've ever wondered, how do people get on stage? How do people speak? How do they find their brand? How do they find their message? How do they resonate with the right audience? Well, that speaker today is going to tell you how you can get your super self on a summit, or how to get into the National Association of Speakers or Writers, become a best-selling author, or lead beyond your own capacity. Today, and even podcast, TEDx. Welcome to the stage, Adam Lewis Walker.
Hello.
Hey, and it worked. Oh my God, I pushed the button and you're here.
Oh yeah, you're pixelated. I was getting ahead of myself. I was actually trying to, now we got that working. You said about streaming it to your audience. So I pressed stream and then I had to go for a whole login and it kicked me out.
My God.
Oh, so I was just in the process trying while you was introducing me to try and stream it to Instagram, but I can't because of, I wouldn't be here and it would probably kick us out again. So I'm going to be present. I'm going to focus on us and hope that
let's just do that. We'll focus on us, and then those that are trying to find us will catch up. How about that?
Sounds good.
You know, we have so many things that we are able to do when we have the confidence to get out and speak in front of people. How did you get started, Adam? Have you always just been so confident that we could just can this and people just buy what you do?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Going way back, I'm sure I just remember being, I wouldn't say bullied, but I was punched in the arm quite a lot, getting a dead arm. I was reasonably averagely quiet. I wasn't like introverted. I wasn't extroverted for sure. I was well into my sports and for my age, quite chunky in terms of muscle and stuff. So that drew attention, but I was not, definitely not super confident in that arena. And I think confidence comes from being good at something. So when you step into new arenas, you gotta do the work, and then the confidence will naturally grow, and not compare yourself to someone who's 5 years into, say, like a professional speaking journey. If you're 1 year in or 1 month in.
That's gold. Just say that again, because Adam, so many people are just really hard on themselves. They think they need to get it right, or they need to perfect what they're doing before they even get out there and start practicing. But the practice is in the doing and in the action taking, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why I think no one's better than anyone else. It's just we're all at different stages in our journey and with different focuses. So, and I think it's always a trap. It's very easy to compare yourself to someone who has been doing the specific thing that you're just starting, who's been doing it for like 20 years, which is always going to make you think, oh my goodness.
Right. And when you've practiced enough, you know that you feel natural. You know what to say next. You understand the pacing. You understand, what your message is. How do you teach people to find that message?
Yeah, generally people come to me with their message, maybe not 100% nailed down, but their message is usually, the reason they're reaching out to me is because they want to amplify their mission, usually via a TED talk, but it could be by other means. And so they've got something that's within them that they want to put out there. It may not be communicated in the best way, and that's where the fine tuning comes. But they bring the raw materials, and then specifically for something like a TED talk, your message, your mission is usually not exactly the idea specifically you share on the TEDx stage, because your message and your mission doesn't have to be unique. It can be like, hey, I want to help, stop world hunger. That's not unique. That's a very nice message and mission, and I think everyone agree. I'd like to get behind that. But in terms of getting on the TEDx stage and landing that talk in that area, okay, what's a unique approach or perspective in terms of ending world hunger? Like, what do you do that's different? And that's
right. And how do you stand out? What makes you different than, say, the millions of others that have the same mission?
Yeah.
But in a TEDx talk, it's a little bit different. You've got a very specific agenda. You have a very finite amount of time. Don't dare go over that. And I love to listen to TEDx talks because they're really thought leader oriented, aren't they?
100%. Yeah.
As opposed to I'm trying to sell a product or I'm trying to sell a service. There's none of that. It's all about, the thing, whatever that thing is that we want somebody else to understand on a deeper or more profound level. Would you agree?
Yeah, rightly or wrongly, if they see you on the TEDx red spot, they, I think, rightly assume you are an expert in that chosen field, 100%. And you cannot get on the TEDx stage by any other means than earning it. You can stack the deck in your favor by doing the work and getting coaches, consultants, and people to help you and who've done it. But ultimately, it's going to be you on that stage. It's going to be you landing that talk with support. Everyone has support. It's just a case of how much support are you going to get, and are you actually going to do it? Because so many people say, "Oh, I'd love to do a TEDx talk one day," and that one day doesn't come for a lot of people because it's always tomorrow. And even I have people, kind of sign up with me or even deposits or on the verge. And that period is painful to watch because they're waiting for that perfect time to start and it never comes. That's the reality. So it's just start with where we are, with what we got, and start taking them baby steps to get to that stage, but make sure it's consistent and you keep moving forwards.
When I think about a TEDx talk, I think about, levels of expertise. And like you said, that red spot really identifies you are an expert in something. So why do people come to you that are not prepared, that don't even know what they want to talk about?
Because they know they want to get on the red spot. They know they want to do a TEDx talk. And that's how I started. I was teaching in a college in the UK. And basically, when I was introduced to TED Talks, I had some pretty rough and challenging classes, like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And they stopped and took notice of a TED Talk, some random person for 10 minutes. So the level of credibility goes across the board. Like, a group of, teenagers who maybe not that engaged in certain things, it caught their attention because ultimately that person's life has boiled down to this one 10-minute unique idea. That's what they're all about. That's going to be more entertaining than me giving my version of saying, "Oh, let me talk to you about, agriculture." Or how about we listen to this expert who's boiled it down into 10 minutes and it's interesting, entertaining, and it caught their attention. And that's when the light bulb come for me that I want to do one. And at that point, I didn't know what it was going to be on. So but then once you get your mission, because you don't want to just, obviously you can't just wander up there. You have to have some background and some reason.
Wait a minute. The idea of somebody wandering onto the red spot actually made me laugh because you're not going to get there unless you really own that stage. There are several levels of qualification that you have to go through to get there too.
100%. Yeah. And I think
what are you doing, Adam, to help people really prep them? I mean, they come to you and they have a mission, they have an idea. Do you help them perfect the idea or help them figure out a structure or the structure of the talk itself?
Yeah, I have I call it the talk accelerator method that I've fine-tuned over the last sort of 6 years, and it is literally a step-by-step progression that everyone needs to go through. And then what's interesting for me, because it'd be quite boring otherwise, everyone's journey is unique and everyone's skill set and where they need more help, where they need the focus is unique. And then as added to that, the event they're going to speak at is unique to everyone else. And so it gets quite specific, but yeah, everyone works on their idea. The romantic notion that you're going to wake up one morning with like ping and a perfect, oh, that's my TEDx idea. That's an excuse that lets people hold themselves back. So they go, oh, I haven't really got a TEDx worthy idea. I've got some good ideas, but they're not really fit for the TEDx. They won't be unless you do the work. And so even with someone coming in like, I've got a really strong idea and I think that's good, we work on it to make it great. So then it's like, it's a no-brainer when the organizer hears it. They're like, I want you. I want this. This idea needs to be shared. And the idea is the star, and that takes the pressure off the individual as well, because ultimately we want to get you to a level that if I pitched your idea, it would catch the TEDx organizer's attention. It would fall down then, because then they'd say, well, why are you uniquely positioned to share that idea? And I'll be like, I'm not, it's my clients. But if the individual who's
right. Don't push me back into that red spot. No, it's really my clients, right?
But yeah, that's what we want the idea to be the star, and we've got to get a balance, because yeah, you want to be credible to deliver it, but you know, hearing people's initial ideas, I've done probably like 500 plus idea clarity calls for people interested in this sort of thing, and it's quite common to lead with and unknowing it, but I hear a lot of I's, me's. I want to share this. I want to do this. I want to help this. And it's all about I, me. Your pitch would be a lot better if you it's not about you. It's about the idea. Okay. So that, and just flipping that ratio is usually useful, and everyone always thinks they have a unique idea, which is ultimately, they just tell me about the hero's journey. I had this adversity. I learned this and I overcame it. And thinking that's unique. That's not unique. Most TEDx talks, most good movies, Rocky, Star Wars, etc., are going to have a version of the hero's journey in there. It's within that, that's a kind of assumed, what is your unique idea or perspective within that hero's journey kind of arc that, you know, is quite common.
Well, not only why is it unique, but why should anybody care, right? So
100%.
how deep do you go in emotions? Is emotion an important factor of the story?
Yep. So I just did a final rehearsal with a client who's giving her talk next Saturday in Boston or that area, and she's done a lot of work. We've been working on it. You're never done until the TEDx talk is done. If you've got more time, we can just keep working on it. But her talk is really good. We planned it, we prepped it, we structured it. And she's at the level where she's done probably about 2 weeks out, which is perfect. So now it's like, okay, how can we make it a great talk amongst good TEDx talks? How can we enhance it? How can we amplify it? And so one of the things I picked out of hers was, okay, I definitely didn't cry and I definitely didn't laugh. Why not? Well, that's the challenge.
That's kind of a red flag, isn't it? I mean, because, you know, many of the stories that I think about, the most successful ones, have had a lot of humor in them, and the worse the story and the more incredible journey that you have to overcome, the more you need to have some humor in it, because if you can't take your audience to hell and leave them there, right?
You just nailed it. Yeah, if you're talking about, say, like something very dark and depressing and very emotional and trauma, I think it's harsh to do that to your audience without giving that little light relief, that like a pressure valve somewhere in there. Just give them a laugh. And on the flip side, if you're just doing pure comedy, unless your talk is something to do with pure comedy, even then I would suggest, why don't you upset them a little bit? If you've got something, it's stretching yourself. It's easier not to do it, but challenge yourself. Like if she tries, and she can easily make them laugh. And just one or two lines, and there were certain points I picked out from listening to her talk, which is basically done. It's final rehearsals. The organizers are happy with it; they love it, but it's not their talk. They don't care ultimately beyond their event. And for her, yeah, it's a great talk. But I was like, well, you know, there was no comedy, and you missed a few spots. There was one or two bits, just one liner. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian, but if the material's good, you know, it lends itself. Observational comedy, and then the same thing, like. I think in that stage, she just glanced over and sort of just said about, you know, domestic violence. And I was like, rewind, like, yeah, you can glance over it if you want, but there's no real, wasn't even close to crying in listening to your talk. It didn't really get me emotional at all. And you're talking about what potentially are delivered in a different way could be really upsetting.
Right. So how do you make a correction like that? I mean, she's 2 weeks out. And for me as a performer or an entertainer, or, you know, I'm used to having, you know, a dress rehearsal where everything is really tight and ready to go. But when you're talking 2 weeks out and you got to make a little bit of change and you've been practicing something, what's the average length of time that people are practicing their TEDx talk before they're ready to go on stage?
Massively varies. There's ideals.
Some people are just experts in conversation, or they've already had this story, or this is, they're starting from scratch.
It's purely because, people are different levels of busyness, and it's how much time do you want to spend? Like, some people have got very busy. Well, everyone's got actually very busy lives, but some people will dedicate more time than others, and we work with what we've got. Again, right. Everything I do is excuse proof, because I hear so much time that, I'm really busy at the moment. I'm too busy. And so all of the stuff I do with my clients, they're all entrepreneurs, basically. A few are kind of more corporate, but they're quite entrepreneur in terms of trying to get their self-credibility up there. So you work with what you've got and you be more efficient. And in terms of, you just said the example there, she could go and give her talk tomorrow. So it's not a stress. Like, if she gave it tomorrow, it would be fine. And we literally said that. So she's good to go, but these are just little cherries on the top. If she can find a way to work humor in there, brilliant, and she definitely can. But it's always the clients, the individuals. It's their decision what they say. You can advise, you can help, but you want to be someone who's confident with what they're saying. And if not saying certain things because they thought it'd be funny, but it doesn't feel right for them. You said it. How do you make it? She glanced over, domestic violence period, blah blah blah. You go into the story, you take the listener there, you make it very personal, and you tell it from first person perspective, and you can go right into that. And again, she had some client or examples and stories, massive potential for humor there, or the other way, depending how you tell it, massive potential to make it
right. And I mean, there are plenty of examples of really nailing it. And one that comes to mind has made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Is called Chicago. And that one number of, they're all standing behind the bars, right? And they're all singing about he had it coming, right? He ran into my knife 7 times, right? You can find the humor in really dark situations. So you can get, as you said, give your audience a breath. Give them a stretch and make them go with you on this emotional journey, but give them a moment to relax and pull back, so that they don't have to stay in that, because that's a very uncomfortable place. I'm sure that you've heard people that have come to you that have said, I want to talk about this, and this is what it's going to be. And in fact, I was a judge on a panel recently, and I had to listen to somebody tell her story, which was devastating. And she is still 3 years later devastated by this traumatic event. But the story started sort of up and then ended very dark and very down. And you feel bad for the person's journey, but man, that is just hard to hear. And it was hard for her to hear that it was difficult for us to be there with her. We felt her, we could feel, her journey and her misery, but man, we don't want to stay there. We want to be entertained, don't we?
Yep. And you want to have generally a happy ending, or at least be taken on taken on a journey. And when you was talking about that, I had a client who, brutal story. It was like she didn't even have to try to tell it in a certain way to make it emotional. It's horrible stuff. And so it was key, very clear early on. We needed to have that mental release and finish in a positive note, and have that humor in there in what was, if you just tell it, it's like watching some kind of crime report that is not nice to hear. But it is what it is. So the emotion side of things, very, very powerful, but we want to make sure we've got, I like to think of it like a heartbeat. That should be the cadence, the journey we're taking throughout your talk.
Definitely.
Because otherwise, and again, ultimately the classic monotone, the professor who's in a
right, where their level is all the way right here and it stays right here.
In their brain and their knowledge, but oh my God, it's so painful. So
it's terrible.
And no one's going to make you do a TEDx talk in an area where you're not an expert in. The whole point is you've brought it to there. So yeah, you'd be nervous, I'm sure, to do a TEDx if I said, right, you've got to do it in AI or something that you have no history in, or or
little or no experience or expertise, and you're going to get
like,
up and
what?
be an expert.
But again,
Yeah.
if someone says something that you've naturally been passionate about or working in or your field for like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if they said, could you speak about that for 10 minutes? I'm confident to speak on that. It might not be a good talk, but I'm definitely confident. And I know with work, it will get better and better.
So, how long is the average TED Talk?
Average one, that's a great question. So you can't be longer than 18 minutes. Over the sort of 6 years I've been really geeking out in helping other people, they've definitely got shorter. The organizers can make them as short as they want, because they might just logistically might say, right, all the talks at my event are under 10 minutes. But you have up to 18 minutes maximum. And I would recommend I'd recommend go closer to 10, because, with TikTok and all that, people's attentions are just shorter and shorter. My TEDx, my first one, was 18 minutes because I had zero guidance, and they said, you got 18 minutes. So I said, okay. I thought that was a target. And now I know that same talk, if it was 10 minutes, was probably need another about 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks work on it to get it down to 10. And it would have been so much more valuable for me, because more people would have listened to the whole thing. And that's just the reality. So I recommend try not to go over 10. And if you do go over 10, then you're still well under the time for the organizers.
So I see people doing multiple TEDx talks. What's the benefit of that?
It's a great question. I see this too. I would say it's law of diminishing returns.
No,
Yeah.
you mean they're not getting the views, or they're not getting the hits on.
No. So in terms of, you're either a TEDx speaker or not. I know no one cares if I've done 10 or 1, and like organizers and credibility wise, it makes no difference to me. But again, because I'm in the industry, I actually, once it gets to a certain level, I start thinking, what's going on there? Like, why are you doing so many? Like, so for me personally, I'm going to do one more, and my aim is that is it, because I did mine in 2016, and that was literally my first speaking gig outside of a classroom, basically.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so I look at it now, and it's,
wait a minute. I got our audience needs to catch up with that comment. You've never spoken before on a stage, except, maybe in the classroom you had to get up and talk about an assignment. So let's just go to the TEDx stage. Are you nuts?
Well, number one, the toughest audience you're ever going to get is teenagers. And I was doing that, back to back for 10 years, and they're brutal. You can be entertaining for like 90% of the time. You turn up and you're having an off day, that nice class or that group, they turn on you. You need to entertain every day.
Fast. They turn on you really fast. And they look for your weakness and then go for it. Amplify it.
Every audience since is I always have that as my yardstick. I worked in pupil referral units, so it's where the pupils get excluded from schools because they cannot survive in a normal school because they're either beating someone up or beating the teacher up. So this is a great idea. They put them all together.
Survival of the species in a classroom. This is Lord of the Flies.
They put them all together in one school. That sounds like a good idea. And then they need someone to come in and teach. And I always did that in like a substitute supply teacher. So I literally dropped in one of those schools. This is hilarious. This is in my hometown. I went to this pupil referral unit. My first lesson, I went in there. It was like fresh meat. Just think of prison movies and stuff. And
that's right. Come on in. We got you.
The first lesson, I said you didn't have many students because they literally had to have, a high staff to pupil ratio because they literally had to restrain people and things happened. And the first lesson, within the first 10 minutes, they were like, where's Johnny? And I was like, and they were like, oh yeah, he got out. I looked round and the window behind me, there's something alight, and he'd got out and he'd come round to the back of the window of the classroom and he had lit something, and so there's like flames. It was like a prison riot.
Flames. No, he didn't just light something, he set something on fire.
It's not a boring day. And then I actually went to a secure unit that was actually like a prison. So this is my background. And so
TEDx Talk was a safe place compared to the classroom.
Well, people who are there are generally, they want to hear TEDx talks. They know what they're getting. They've not been forced to be there. So, yeah. So, but that was my first. But then again, there's more expectations of when you go into a TEDx event or you click on a TEDx event online. you're expecting a certain level of expertise. And so an average talk doesn't really cut it. And there are a lot of average TEDx talks. And my first one, again, to be nice to myself, but then that was the best talk I could give at that time. So for the time, I'm very happy with it. But now, you know, this many years later and coaching and working on it, it's quite tough for me to watch. But someone literally approached me yesterday and said, "Oh, I watched your TEDx talk. I didn't know you'd done one." I said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, yeah. It was one of my first speaking gigs. You know, I've got a lot better. And they're like, "Oh, no, I loved it. It's really good." And like, they're all super impressed. So, you know, yeah, it's tricky. You gotta be nice to yourself. But I try and get my clients to do the best possible talk they're capable of giving at that time. That's the goal. And then you move on.
You know, and you bring up a good, important point. You did the best that you could at the time, but you know, anytime that we've practiced something or we look at something and we refine it and we get better, or we rehearse it, we're always going to be our harshest critics. And you know, it's not like looking at ourselves in the mirror where we're used to seeing, you know, our imperfections. We amplify that when we look at ourselves on a screen, because we don't have this same point of reference that I'm looking inside the mirror and I'm looking at my hairline, or who just got paint in my hair last night. No, we're looking at every imperfection. We're listening to every sound. We're listening to the timing, to the cadence, to the words, even the words that were chosen, or the emphasis that we made on that word. But remember this, Adam, you're part of an exclusive club, and that club is not for everyone. So tell me how this has changed I know that you do this as a business, Talk Accelerator. You have a podcast. You're in the National Association of Writers and Podcasters and Speakers, and you've got a best-selling book, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But when you went from classroom, which sounds like a survival tactic, by all means, there you go. Awaken. Hold it back up, Adam.
Get the show.
Awaken your alpha, and we're going to talk about that in a second.
That was my TEDx talk. I turned my TEDx talk into a best-selling book. So.
That is rocking. I just wanted to know how you had monetized, and how do people monetize their capacity to be able to speak on stage, be in a TEDx talk, and you just showed us one of those ways. What are some of the other ways that people are using this to monetize?
Wow. What are, I mean, such a broad, if you've got any kind of business, the TEDx is just the biggest, fanciest calling card in the business. It's better than a book, in my opinion, because people have to buy your book generally, or they have to, you know, you can give them a digital download, but in terms of ease, click this and they can watch it for like 3 minutes or even less. You can cut 30-second clips, and you can have it I've got it in my email signature line, just subtly. Yeah, I mean, anything you're doing, I mean, on the most basic sense, if you want to go down the paid speaker route, I would assume when I started, it's a nice thing to have. I think it's essential now, because it's got, I literally had someone at a speaking event this year who said they're a professional speaker, and they said they felt like, and it's getting to the stage of people like, well, have you got TEDx? And then people say, I haven't got it. And they're like, it's almost like, why not, if you're a professional speaker? So, but I mean, if you are getting
it's like you're mandatory. It's your prerequisite now to be taken seriously, right?
Yeah, it's like being a doctor and not having done a degree or something. Or like not getting that qualification. So
that's right. Never done brain surgery before, but I'll meet you in OR in 20 minutes.
You kind of assume, yeah, if someone's a doctor, you assume a certain level of expertise. And I mean, straight up, if you're trying to get booked and paid for speaking, and it is competitive, it's always, so a speaker organizers looking at their event, and they got two people, they got me and my evil twin, and we're both talking about a similar topic or subject, and they're like, oh yeah, they both could do it, they're both good. Oh, this one's a TEDx speaker. Oh, this one, oh, where's their TEDx talk? I guess we'll go with this one. It could be that, you know, a TEDx talk, if you're already getting paid, you add on some zeros to your speaker fee. It's credibility. And I just got named in the Marquis Who's Who in America for 2024-25. Pretty sure that wouldn't have happened, because they have to find you. They only go by, they didn't meet me in person. They found me, I think, probably through LinkedIn, and saw the assets that have built up. And the TEDx tool is just a tool. The TEDx, it's just a platform.
It's another asset. It's just one more thing that lends a level of credibility about your expertise.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to shift for a second and talk about what you're doing and in the leadership and motivational area. So you speak on these topics, but you also give summits. You also give leaders a new edge, and I love some of the topics, but in one of them, lead with consciousness or lead with conscience, and I'm like, well, that's better than being unconscious. It's like, tell us about what that means.
Yeah. So that was actually taken from one of my in my book. Someone who reviewed it and got it. Used to be on the front cover, and I'm just trying to find it. They said it's a must read if you want to be a. Did I put it out here? Oh yeah, a must read for everyone who wants to step up in their life with confidence and vision of being a conscious leader. And that was Tom Cronin, founder of the Stillness Project out of Australia. I'm not Australian, but so that was something. That's feedback from the Awaken Your Alpha stuff and all the processes and the people I've got in there. So that's with a book like Awaken Your Alpha, instantly people think of male and something I've learned moving forwards. I mean, when people say, "Oh, so you can't speak to me, we've got a mixed audience," or it's a female audience, I'm like, no. Watch the Awaken Your Alpha. This is what it means. The first 3 minutes of my TED talk explains it, and so I lean back to for the definition of alpha. That's where I start. So I think modern society's kind of hijacked that a little bit. So I look to the animal kingdom in the dictionary, and literally it says alpha female of the elephant pack, and it's so in the animal kingdom it's when it's a dominance hierarchy. So I look at it in terms of achieving the highest level in areas of your life that are important. And then from the solar system, the alpha is Alpha Centauri, which is the star that shines the brightest. So it's about shining as bright as you can with your time here and achieving, areas of things that are important, achieving high levels. So in your life. So that's kind of, there's no mention of male or female particularly. So that's in terms of conscious leader, awareness, action, and ascension is the kind of what I broke down the TED talk of Awaken Your Alpha. And that became the 3 sections of my book.
Why are people so reluctant to lead?
Well, it's you're exposing yourself. If you lead, then you're putting yourself up there for ridicule, and there's a lot
arrows in the back, people talking behind you, people talking quiet.
Yeah, once you stick your head up, you're likely to get it knocked off, or people are going to try and knock it off, and it's a lot easier. Unfortunately, the reality is too many people. I would probably lean towards more, unfortunately, find a way to make themselves feel better. Instead of building themselves up, they knock others down who are trying to lead. And whether it's, I'm all about personal leadership. So you got to lead your life and lead yourself first before you can try and lead others. So you got to start internally and at home before you go and try and lead others.
Well, and that's really a funny thing too, because, you really do see yourself reflected back when you're raising children, don't you? And you certainly had the teenagers holding your life up to you, even though you may not have had children at home at the time. But the idea about leadership and starting in the home is an important one, because it not only is a place where others are going to see you. Oh, hang on a second. We have a squirrel.
This dog is coming.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Adam.
That's all right.
I told you the place was full of gremlins today, and they've got my dog now. She's out there chasing squirrels. But I think when I became a parent, the very idea that really became very crystallized for me was values. Values are what helps us build our character, for sure. But where are parents falling short of that parenting skill of finding those values and really teaching those values within the kids today? What's your opinion about that?
Ooh, I like that. I was just actually going to see if in my book I've got a section there, but yeah, agreements and code of conduct. I think it's really important. It makes life a lot easier, because once you identify with that awareness, like what is your Mount Olympus, what are you heading for, what's important to you, because it shouldn't be what's important necessarily to everyone else, because there's society things like for me growing up, there's a big pull from all my friends, or yeah, all of them actually, to move into London. Success is seen as moving into London and getting the high paying jobs, because there were a lot of them, but ultimately they became the other way around, money rich, time poor. So I was very clear I didn't want to do that. And so even if you're not sure what your overall goal is, or your Mount Olympus, being aware of things that repel you and you don't like can kind of point you in the right direction of things that you might like. So once you become aware of that, then all your actions, are either moving you towards that or from away from that, added to a clear code of conduct in terms of things you are and are not willing to do, makes decisions become a lot easier, because you just run it through that filter with children, your kids, or like opportunities. And if it doesn't move you towards your overall kind of mission or goal, or it moves you further away, that's quite easy. And then, okay, if it does move you towards it, but it's working on weekends, and part of your philosophy is you don't work on weekends, or family time at certain times is sacred, or certain things you're not away like more than 3 or 2 weeks of the month, for whatever that may be for you. Being very clear on that makes your life a lot easier and decisions quicker, and
it makes it easier. But then there's this other thing called influence. So we've got, and depending on where kids are at in their lives, or where young adults are in their lives, the influence of others, and not listening to that inner voice. How important is that, listening to that inner voice versus those outer voices?
Depends. One of the people I put in the book actually had a great quote that I put in there: earn the right to trust your gut. So in some areas you don't want to listen.
That's a good one.
You don't want to listen.
Really good one.
Like if I start talking to you about farming, or if I go into the farming, I don't want to listen to my inner voice, because I ain't got a clue about that, and I'll probably make a lot of mistakes. So in that, I want outside influence. But then there's certain areas where you've earned the right to trust your gut, and you really should listen to your inner voice. And then obviously, there's the more general, where when you get a certain sense for a person, or your intuition is telling you something's off, I think across the board for anyone, you're usually right on that one. So you need to pay attention to that. But yeah, that's that.
It's an easy thing, I think, for us to think about. Well, just trust my gut or trust my intuition, but sometimes that intuition might be confused with I want, or I desired. How do you make the distinction between the desire, the want, and not listen to the I should be, but find that balance?
Oh, yeah, great point, because entrepreneurs specifically have the kind of shiny object syndrome.
Oh,
and
guilty as charged.
Yeah, myself included. I think, again, once you get a clear, I call it ikigai, reason for being. So it's a Japanese concept, where it's that like the 4 circles overlapping like a Venn diagram, where it's like, your passions, and then like things you're good at, what you can be paid well for, and what the net world needs. When you can get all them overlapping, you kind of like, it becomes like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And you don't get sidetracked by other stuff. But when you're searching for that, of course, it's easier to, just keep changing and chopping and changing. But you need to stay at something for a long time. But again, if you haven't thought it through, and you're not even sure if kind of in terms of the vision, the mission, your kind of strategic plan, if you'd be happy, or you want to end up where this is leading, then that's where you're more likely to be very less resilient, and be a bit more flaky, and jump on the newest fad.
You're bringing up good topics. One of the things that you struck a chord with me was that finding that balance between that desire and that drive. As entrepreneurs, we do get stuck with, this didn't work, or I didn't get that result when I wanted it. And there's also a fine line of entitlement. And I worked this hard in this industry, so I should be able to get it. And I should be able to be making whatever this road to success is. What advice would you give to the entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about where they are in their journey, where they are in their messaging, and where they are in their branding? What would you say to that person that gave that first TEDx talk and the people that are listening right now?
Yeah, you got to have the beginner's mindset. And I'm thinking of to be specific, like my clients and stuff. I think it's a challenge for seasoned professional speakers to work with me, because of, you said about almost like that ego side of things. They feel entitled that they should have done a TEDx by now, and they're fine, and they don't really need help. They just want to have a quick talk to me. And so sometimes it's hard to admit, in certain arenas, and speaking is speaking, but the TEDx is a very, very specific thing. And that's why I wanted to focus in on that, because when I started this, I wouldn't have seen myself as a speaker coach. I helped people secure their TEDx talks and smash their TEDx talks. That was it. And obviously, naturally, by doing that for years and years and years, then you're like, well, actually, there's a lot of crossovers, and being succinct and prioritizing and saying less is definitely more. That bleeds into all areas of your life. So I'd say if you haven't done it before, you haven't done it before. So have that beginner's mindset, and we can all learn from everyone. Even if you think this person in front of you is not the best, you can learn from them in terms of how not to carry yourself, or maybe how not to communicate.
I am never going to do that. Thank you for showing that to me. Right.
Maybe don't say that, but yeah.
Right. What really makes you jump out of bed in the morning?
Wow, I'm just excited. I mean, that's a good sign. I'm excited to get on with the day. I'm excited to all of it really. I got a reasonably young family. The kids are still at home. I can be specific, but yeah, just get out there and make the day great. I like to, I think it's an important question. What could you do to make today great? And I think it's important to add the today, because it's very easy to just save up, or in terms of mentally and physically and financially, for that great day, and just sacrifice a lot of days. But even if you're having a really tough day towards the end of the day,
still
ask yourself, it's more important than what can I do to make today great? And it might be just going for a walk, or playing some sports, or playing a board game, or just doing something, and not saying, silly stuff like, if I went to Disneyland today, that'd be great. No, what can you actually do today to make today great? Even if you've had a rough day.
Make every day Disneyland, right?
Yeah,
because not every day. Listen, if you spent your entire life at Disneyland in a character costume, that couldn't possibly be fun. Right?
No, that'd be yeah. I'm really excited about traveling, and just scaling up, and just continual improvement. So looking to speak at bigger and more prestigious stages, traveling, speaking all over in the 5 continents, opening a physical creative studio in the adopted hometown here, and so that's something physical for my sons to see. Just pushing the envelope, and then helping more people, because like we touched on, those entrepreneurs who feel entitled, or like the best people with the best knowledge out there, unfortunately doesn't mean they're going to get the best exposure. And I like to help. I like to find those experts who maybe are not getting the best exposure, or they want more, but they've got such good stuff, and they can really help people. And it's ultimately helping them help more people. That's what it comes down to. And so I like to flip it round. If you're focusing on yourself, thinking, I don't know if I could do it, or maybe next year. If you've got that kind of idea where you're like, I need to get this out and amplify to more people, you're being selfish if you do not,
preach it. Come on, Adam, preach it. Oh my God. Yes.
If you're not getting it out to more people and saying, next year I'll help more people, or next year I'll grow a set of kahunas to get it out there, and then I will get to you. Because the reach of a TEDx talk can be very far, and potentially millions. But not just that. If you, let's just say, only I say 10,000 people watch your TED talk, that's 10,000 people. Imagine them in a room, and specifically that's 10,000 people that are likely targeted, because your TEDx title will be specific and niched. And within that 10,000, let's just be conservative. Let's say 500 of them run events, or 500 of them are your ideal client.
Or being a TEDx talker, and the difference of you getting the stage that you want to be on because you did it.
Yeah, it just opens up a lot of doors. Cool story. And this again, you touched on the TEDx was my first speaking gig. So my next speaking gig is probably my coolest speaking gig in terms of prestigious stages and stuff. And that was 6 months after, less than 6 months. And that was 100% because I'd done the TEDx. Because the reality was there was an event coming up that I knew the organizer slightly. And I said, hey, can I speak at it? Proactive, number one. You got to, make these opportunities. And they literally said to me, I didn't know you as a speaker. And I was thinking, yeah, that's because I wasn't. And I'm just starting this. But I said, oh, yeah, this is a recent talk I did. Sent in my TEDx. And I'm talking seconds, not even minutes, seconds. The message came through. Oh, yeah, we've got a spot for you. Because it went from speaker. Oh, you've done a talk? You've spoke before? Oh, maybe. Oh, you're a TEDx speaker. I don't even know if they watched. They might have watched a second or two. I don't know. But it was like, yes, you got that spot. And that was at the historic Hollywood Roosevelt, where they did the first Oscars and used to hold the Oscars, the most fanciest looking stage in front of 300, 400 best-selling authors. Like they had an Emmy award-winning film crew. They had a boom arm. It was awesome.
Oh, that is
clearly that's in my speaker reel. But yeah, and that was
awesome. That is a hell of a speaker reel. That is so cool. Adam, I can't believe we're already out of time. But
it's always good.
All right, how do people find you?
So LinkedIn's always a good one. You see on the thing there, aymission.com. I got a free training there as well. How to get a TEDx talk, the top 3 secrets to become a TEDx speaker or book it in the next 90 days. That's possible. That's the average. Takes my clients about 3 months. Took me 3 years the first time because I was working out what not to do most of the time. And there's a podcast, free podcast. You can binge listen to that. How to get a TEDx talk accelerator just come up there. You can listen to that on all major podcasting platforms. So yeah, it's lots to get on with. And then if you ever want to reach out further through the website, I do a complimentary idea clarity call for those people who are interested in working with me, or at least in the bare minimum, voicing their idea or ideas, and I give them some instant feedback and how I think they could improve it.
Oh my God, Adam, the TED Talk Accelerator. Thank you so much for being on the show. Stay right there and stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have Adam on the show. If you really have something to do and something to say, you have an obligation to get it out there to your audience. You really want to find your message or fine tune it or find your branding, reach out to Adam. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining us again today. We'll see you next week.
Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the stage. Get on your feet, shake your.
Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindak360.com.